I want to go back to yesterday to something that happened because we're seeing a pattern here. A drip, 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 drip. It's important for you to understand the pattern. This is yesterday at the White House press briefing.
I understand that President Biden historically has spoken very forcefully about anti-Semitism. But this week, he's not. He's MIA. Is he that worried about losing the youth vote with these protesters?
I'm going to be mindful. You're talking about youth vote. You're talking about 2024.
No. Young people.
I have to say what I have to say, and just give me a second. So I'm not going to speak about somebody's doorbell. Is that a doorbell?
Alarm.
An alarm. Okay. All right. And I'll speak more broadly. I can't speak to youth and support and voters. That's not something I can do from here. The president has taken a lot of policy actions here that he knows that young people care about.
That young people care. Okay. So first, Peter Ducey says, where is the president? He hasn't spoken. And then in Waukesha, Wisconsin last night, Donald Trump calls out Joe Biden. Calls him out. Where is he on this? Donald Trump denounces it. You know, Joe Biden, or literally the first two words when he announced this campaign, Charlottesville, Virginia. He called out Donald Trump on that. He denounced white supremacy and white nationalism. He said we're a better country than that. He says it's the whole reason he ran for president was Charlottesville, Virginia. And for 2 weeks now, he's been absolutely staggeringly quiet. So Donald Trump calls him out. Peter Ducey in the press briefing does. CNN takes note that they only are issuing statements. So finally today, the president of the United States finally addressed the nation.
Moments about what's going on our college campuses here. We've all seen the images, and they put to the test two fundamental American principles. The first is the right to free speech and for people to peacefully assemble and make their voices heard. The second is the rule of law. Both must be upheld. We are not an authoritarian nation where we silence people or squash dissent. The American people are heard. In fact, peaceful protest is in the best tradition of how Americans respond to consequential issues. But neither are we a lawless country. We are a civil society, and order must prevail. Throughout our history, we've often faced moments like this because we are a big, diverse, free-thinking, and freedom-loving nation. In moments like this, there are always those who rush in to score political points. But this isn't a moment for politics.
So rushing to score political points. And hint, Donald Trump for the audacity of calling him out for remaining silent. And then, of course, he pivots.
Right. There's the right to protest, but not the right to cause chaos. People have the right to get an education, the right to get a degree, the right to walk across the campus safely without fear of being attacked. But let's be clear about this as well. There should be no place on any campus, no place in America for anti-Semitism or threats of violence against Jewish students. There is no place for hate speech or violence of any kind, whether it's anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, or discrimination against Arab Americans or Palestinian Americans. It's simply wrong. There's no place for racism in America. It's all wrong. It's un-American.
Okay. Why does he have to caveat anti-Semitism and bind it to Arab American discrimination and Islamophobia? Where is the Islamophobia happening on these college campuses, please? Can someone direct me to the campus where people are taking over buildings and encamping, trespassing on grounds because of Islamophobia? Where exactly is that happening? Where are people discriminating right now, blocking access to Arab Americans? Where is that happening? I'm unaware of those events happening. So why does Joe Biden keep bringing those up every time he talks about anti-Semitism? He can't talk about hatred of Jews without saying, oh, and also of Arabs.
I understand people have strong feelings and deep convictions. In America, we respect the right and protect the right for them to express that. But it doesn't mean anything goes. It needs to be done without violence, without destruction, without hate, and within the law. You know, make no mistake, as president, I will always defend free speech, and I will always be just as strong in standing up for the rule of law. That's my responsibility to you, the American people, and my obligation to the Constitution.
Okay. Listen, I'm glad Joe Biden came out and denounced what's happening on these college campuses. It's clearly becoming a political liability. The problem here is it's not leadership. He had to be bullied to do this. And this is a recurring pattern with Joe Biden. Joe Biden doesn't come out and speak until sufficiently bullied. Joe Biden does not change his mind until sufficiently bullied. People understand that if they bully and cajole Joe Biden, he will react to it. That's not leadership. That's being led around by the nose by other people. And that's what's happening here. For 2 weeks, people have pointed out, myself included, that his office has sent out pre-printed statements written by someone else denouncing what's happening on college campuses. Only after Donald Trump calls him out does Joe Biden choose to respond. Only after Peter Ducey causes a sensation of the White House press briefing about Joe Biden, or his reviews come out, does Joe Biden come out. It shouldn't take people bullying Joe Biden for Joe Biden to do the right thing. And yet this is consistent with his record over 50 years. And particularly being in the White House, Joe Biden doesn't act. Joe Biden reacts. Joe Biden doesn't lead. He is led. People want a strong American leader right now to deal with the economic situation, to deal with what's happening abroad, to deal with terrorism, to deal with antisemitism. And Joe Biden's not that guy. It's why views on Donald Trump's tenure in office have gone up with so many people who didn't like him, but now they're like, you know what? He wasn't that bad. We may have been worried about him mean tweeting, but he's not on Twitter anymore. And although, by the way, the economy was pretty good. Jobs were great. The economy, not bad. We didn't have all this international chaos when Trump was president. Russia was not invading Ukraine. Joe Biden's not a leader. It should be obvious. You may not want Donald Trump as your leader, but at least he leads. Joe Biden has to be bullied to do the right thing. And that's the thing here. It's one thing for Joe Biden to be bullied, to make a mistake because he was bullied. That's not it at all. Joe Biden was bullied into just speaking up against anti-Semitism, and Joe Biden can't bring himself to just denounce anti-Semitism. There is not a single college campus in this United States right now where Arab Americans and Palestinians are fearful of their ability to access campus. But there are a whole hell of a lot of campuses where Jews are not welcome right now. And the president can't just call out the anti-Semitism. He's fine calling out the white nationalism. There are no caveats when Joe Biden calls out white nationalism. There are no caveats when Joe Biden calls out racism. Every single time there are caveats when Joe Biden calls out anti-Semitism. Why is that? Why can Joe Biden not just come out and say hating Jews is bad? It's always hating Jews is bad, and also hating Arabs are bad. And by the way, he spit more words denouncing discrimination and hatred of Arabs than of Jews. That's right. He called out anti-Semitism and then spent many more words calling out Islamophobia and discrimination against Arab Americans and Palestinian Americans. Way more words in his speech about Islamophobia than anti-Semitism at a time there's not a single campus on this country where Islamophobia is an issue. He's not leading. He's being led around by progressive activists who are anti-Semites, who hate Jews, who do not like this country, who want to call for a revolution. He's on the side of the progressive revolutionaries. That's not leadership. Frankly, for some reason, it's anarchy. He's on the side of these anarchists who just want to tear things down. Look, I'm glad he spoke. I'm glad he finally spoke up against what's happening on these college campuses. I I cannot emphasize enough, though, that he spent more words in his speech denouncing Islamophobia and discrimination against Arabs and Palestinians than he did against anti-Semitism. And we're only dealing with anti-Semitism at these college protests. We're not dealing with hatred and hostility of Arabs. So the only reason he did it was because the man who started his speech saying this isn't a time for political cheap shots is engaged in political cheap shots in order to hold a base of people who are mad at him helping Israel. The hypocrisy on it is absolutely astounding. I don't understand this White House. I think they are engaged in political malpractice. They are reactive. They're not proactive. They are defensive. They're not on offense. They have convinced themselves that they hate Donald Trump so much, that everybody hates Donald Trump so much, that everybody they know hates Donald Trump so much. There's just no way that Donald Trump can win. That's exactly how Donald Trump is going to win. It's exactly how Donald Trump is going to win. Because the Democrats underestimate him time and time again. Heck, I did in 2016. I really didn't think Trump could win in 2016. And he did. Defied all expectations. I learned the lesson. The Democrats haven't. They're just so convinced that everyone in their bubble hates Donald Trump so much he can't win, so it doesn't matter what Joe Biden does. But it matters a lot that the president of the United States can't come out and denounce anti-Semitism plainly and boldly. And it matters a lot that the president of the United States can't do it until bullied, because the president is supposed to be the leader of the free world, not the let about of the free world. But that's what Joe Biden's become. Dementia is a sad thing to witness.